In this video, I explain the basic ideas of existential philosophy and its approach to the topic of death. You will learn how philosophers reflect on death and how it is connected to life. Existential philosophy is a branch of philosophy that deals with themes of life, freedom, and anxiety. It questions how humans live in an often meaningless world. Existential philosophers are interested in how people understand and shape their own existence. They emphasize the freedom of the individual to define themselves. In existential philosophy, death plays a central role because it marks the end of life. Death is understood as something that awaits every person and shapes life. Philosophers ask how death influences life, and how humans perceive it. Death leads to a confrontation with one's own finiteness and personal choices. The German philosopher Martin Heidegger engaged deeply with the topic of death. For Heidegger, death is the inevitable that always accompanies humans. He believed that awareness of death allows a person to live more authentically. Death is an important part of life for Heidegger and helps in understanding one's own existence. Jean-Paul Sartre, another key figure in existential philosophy, saw death as a limit to human freedom. He stressed that people take responsibility for their lives because they know death can happen at any moment. Sartre believed that facing death forces a person to make decisions. For Sartre, death is a kind of break that gives life meaning. In existential philosophy, death is often seen as a form of freedom. Death reveals the limitations of life and challenges people to make the most of it. Some philosophers, like Sartre, argue that death gives life its value. Without death, there would be no urgency to make decisions and actively shape life. A central theme in existential philosophy is the fear of death. Many philosophers note that death frightens people and limits their freedom. This fear can paralyze someone or cause them not to really live their life. Existential philosophy encourages facing this fear and accepting death as a part of life. Existential philosophy often asks how death relates to the meaning of life. Some philosophers believe that death helps us find life's meaning. Death reminds us that life is finite, and that we must use our time wisely. Thus, death is not only an end, but also a prompt to reflect on one's own life path. Many existential philosophers emphasize the importance of living in the here and now. Death shows us that we only truly have the present and should experience it consciously. By being aware of death, we can appreciate life more. It is about using freedom to live authentically in every moment. In conclusion, death in existential philosophy is seen as an unavoidable part of the human experience. Death is not just a biological end, but also a philosophical theme that shapes life. Engaging with death can help us live more clearly and consciously. Death forces people to confront their own existence.